All right, we're going to go straight to our national reminder and listen to this story. On the 5th of April this year, Citizen Television ran a story about a dilapidated chief's office in Kilimani area of Nairobi. The story elicited a public uproar with a section of Kenyans wondering why such a critical government office would suffer such neglect. The government responded with a pledge to refurbish chief's offices across the country. Now, the promise came with a hefty 2.3 billion shilling price tag. Now, on tonight's national reminder, our very own Victoria Rubadiri finds out whether the government made good on the pledge. Take a look.
Unassumingly sitting on the road reserve in Kilimani, it was easy to miss, but its work critical in doing the government's bidding at the grassroots level. It was a far cry from the luxury high-rises that surrounded it. Used cardboard boxes lined the walls of the office that had no electricity. The tables, chairs, and even file cabinets all donated by well-wishers.
We are easily accessible to people, as much as the face of the office may not be very much good.
With the inscription, the Executive Office of the President, it is clear the work done here was important. In fact, State House Nairobi falls within this jurisdiction.
We need to improve the status of the office by maybe if we can actually get either a container or something closer to that, which can actually give us a secure and more, at least habitable, at least office to work in.
A few days after the report aired, Kilimani Chief Patrick Adira was arrested. The reason? Well, he was accused of forging a business permit worth 61,000 shillings for a Nairobi-based food joint, Meriada Gardens Restaurant, on March 16th, 2018. He denied the charges and explained through his lawyer that he was investigating the validity of the business permit when he was arrested for being in possession of the document. He was released on 2 surety bonds of 200,000 shillings each. The case was scheduled to be mentioned on April 23rd, 2018. Now, a few days later, the Ministry of Interior said it would embark on a plan to refurbish chiefs' offices across the country. The plan laid out by the PS Interior would entail the Ministry of Interior sourcing 2.3 billion shillings from Treasury. Now, this money would go to refurbishing chiefs' offices across the country. Now, as we're looking at the breakdown of that 2.3 billion, 10 million shillings would go to each chief for refurbishment of their offices, while 5 million would go to sub-chiefs.
We really, as a country, have no excuse why we should have our national administrators in offices like that. But we need to put this in the right context. Offices of chiefs were established during colonial times, and the offices you are seeing were very fancy in 1963, but they are not fancy now.
The PS said that these offices are expected to transform into ultra-modern, well-furnished buildings by the time President Uhuru Kenyatta's term comes to an end. 2 years later, there has been no word on whether the 2.3 billion shillings sought by the Ministry of Interior was dispersed. While doing a spot check of some of the chief's offices, we made a curious discovery. The Kilimani chief's office was no longer, with an incomplete shopping center having taken its place. We were informed by a government official that services for Kilimani had now been transferred to the Kileleshwa chief's office. For now, the critical offices of the chief that survived devolution, despite calls for their removal, continue to offer much-needed services to the residents around them. From night raids to responding to natural disasters to listening to spousal, inheritance or funeral disputes, the men and women who don the khaki-colored uniforms faithfully serve as custodians of the 34 national government functions, their workstations notwithstanding. And until the promise is fulfilled, that's your national reminder of the week, lest you forget.